Welcome everyone, my name is Brendan Snyder. Thank you for joining me. If you're new to my channel and you haven't already hit the subscribe button, please click the button. Also hit like, leave a comment, all those things help support my channel. And as an added bonus, you'll be able to stay up to date on all that's going on in the world of music. Just like this, today we're going to take a look at a Pink Floyd unauthorized release. I'm going to call it that. It's called Forever and Ever. It's an album that reimagines what the Division Bell, which came out in 1994, and the Endless River, which came out 20 years later in 2014, would sound like as one double album, which is what it originally was going to be, and I'll get into some of the history of that. But it is an unauthorized release. I stopped short of calling it a bootleg because all the material that's on here is Pink Floyd. It's recorded by Pink Floyd and done by them. But as a rule of thumb, I don't condone unauthorized albums except in the case where the material is not available commercially from the artist. So I will purchase these types of albums, but I do it in addition to the entire catalogs by these bands. And certainly if the band would release this stuff officially, I would buy that instead. And I would even replace this with that if they ever do release it officially. But going back, so the Division Bell was Pink Floyd's 14th studio album. It came out in 1994, and it was the last album to feature keyboardist Rick Wright on it. Now, the original sessions for the Division Bell featured 65 pieces of music. They then narrowed that down to 27 pieces of music before eventually narrowing that down further to the 11 tracks that we know. Now, of all the unused material that there was, engineer Andy Jackson, who had worked on the album, edited all that down into a 1 hour long composition called the Big Spliff. And most people have heard of the lore surrounding this. It's an ambient instrumental piece that was considered for release as part of a double album along with the Division Bell. So the Division Bell, the way that we know it, would have been disc 1, and the second disc in it would have been the Big Spliff. It would have been an instrumental 1 hour long ambient piece of music. But outside of that, you know, we didn't really know what that stuff was. Ultimately, of course, it was abandoned. But then 20 years later, the material was dusted off as potential inclusion for the deluxe edition of the Division Bell. However, the material itself was deemed simply too good to be relegated as just bonus material. And since Rick Wright had passed in 2008, it was also looked at as a way to pay tribute to him. So the surviving members, David Gilmour, vocals and guitar, and Nick Mason on drums, set about transforming the Big Spliff, that hour-long edited ambient instrumental piece of music, into the Endless River. Now, apparently there was something crazy like 300 hours worth of material that they were able to sift through and work on. And so ultimately, when the Endless River surfaced in 2014 as the album that it was, and it is an instrumental album all except for one track that does have vocals, it was almost immediate, you know, that fans began wondering what it would have been like had the Division Bell been released with the Endless River, if those two were done together. And so that's where this release here, called Forever and Ever, comes into play. This is a fan edit, or, you know, or their attempt at reimagining the two albums, even though these are 20 years apart. What it would have been like if the double albums had been recorded, or I should say the two albums had been recorded together at the same time, and sort of like an alternate reality of what might have been. And so this here, Forever and Ever, it is a 2-disc set, and it's divided into 6 suites. Disc 1 contains mostly songs that are about fractured communication, while Disc 2 is mostly songs that are about attempting to resolve said fractured communication. And however, it's not simply just 2 albums that have been resequenced together here. So remember, the Endless River itself is a series of suites, and those songs flow from one to the other. So it'd be really hard to simply resequence songs that don't have a start or a stop to them. So for this release here, it's not only resequenced, but it's also re-edited, remixed, remastered, and some of the tracks are even expanded here. The cool thing is, all the sound levels between the tracks themselves have been matched for continuity of sound. So even though we do have 20 years between the original release of the Division Bell and the Endless River and then where they grabbed some of this other material from, it is all at one constant level. So it does sound like it was all done together. And so regarding the songs themselves, some of the standout performances on here are the things that make these different to this new reimagined effort worthwhile are things like the track Cluster 1. It's an extended version using parts of a soundscape which was recorded for the tour in 1994, and so they've grabbed parts of that and edited that in here, expanding the track Cluster 1. Then we've got Alon's Y1, never know if I'm saying that right, but that's how it's at least spelled here, has also been extended using a longer unused jam in here. I'm not sure where that comes from, although I will say I do have another unauthorized release, or bootleg if you want to call it that, and this is outtakes from the Division Bell and the Endless River, and there's a bunch of great stuff on here, and perhaps it's coming from stuff like that. And again, I don't know why Pink Floyd doesn't just release some of this great stuff. There's a full disc of outtakes there that I wish could be compiled that haven't turned up on the later years. The box set that's behind me that also has some additional stuff from those recording sessions. So there's a lot of great material out here, and that's why I say, you know, I'll pick these up because I'm a diehard fan and I'm certainly always looking for more stuff. But if Pink Floyd would ever release this stuff themselves, I would more than happily buy it. As you can see, I shelled out for the big later years box set that's behind me there. And of course, I have the early years box set too. Separate reviews of both of those if you're looking for. Also a review for this one if you're looking for it. I'll put links to those in the description below. All right, continuing on. Autumn 68 has actually been renamed Spring 69 because that's actually where the track comes from in terms of the time frame. So kind of interesting that they did that. Pulls Apart has actually been restructured with the Carnival midsection being completely removed. In place of that, they've used the track Surfacing. Now, what's interesting about this is they slowed down that track so that it would actually fit with the other speed of the music itself, and they've inserted that there. Then we've got Keep Talking and Talking Hawkin'. Those two have finally been arranged to work together, one right after the other here. Wearing the Inside Out. Now this track here has an additional soloing parts added to it that's taken from an outtake track called Everca, which is from the Endless River Blu-ray. And so you'll also notice that there's, as part of the box set, the Endless River that you can see behind me there, a deluxe edition of it, there was a Blu-ray that came with it that had some outtakes on it. And so those outtakes later appear on this, but also they will have grabbed some of the stuff from that to work into it too. So again, not just simply a resequencing of the two albums. They've grabbed things from outtakes and other places, jams, the soundscape tapes that they have, in order to really turn this into something that's uniquely its own. Then we've got Take It Back. So this one here has added earth sounds, which also comes from that 1994 soundscape tape, but they also use the extended edition of the song itself in doing this. And then we've got a couple tracks here that look like new or unique tracks, although I'm going to explain where they come from. So there's a track on here called First in Space, but that is just the space section of the soundscape tapes. And then Carnival Relations, which I really like the title of this, but that's that removed portion of the Carnival track from Pulls Apart, done here, now sequenced into its own track. And then we've got TBS 9, and that's an outtake jam from the Big Spliff that turned up on the Blu-ray that is part of the Endless River Deluxe Edition box set. So again, they pulled in a couple of those tracks here and worked them into this to make it its own thing. So let's take a quick peek at this. There's not much in the way of the art, but I do like what they've done working in both album art pieces into the front there. And then you can see the back of this. So it's really well done in terms of the art, as well as the sound quality of this. Let's pop this around so you can see the backside. So it's using existing art and outtake works from it in order to do this. But Well done in terms of art, and as I said, well done in terms of the sound. It's been remastered, it's been remixed, so it's just beautifully done. Bottom line, to be clear, I don't think that this double album here can possibly replace the individual albums that are the Division Bell and the Endless River. I think you still definitely need both of those original albums. However, it's amazing the time and the detail that must have gone into this project here to reimagine these two separate albums into one double album. And the way it's presented here, the material itself, it's like it's being heard all on its own in a manner that is a way that it was always originally intended to be heard. It doesn't sound like anything's out of place here. And it just feels really comfortable and natural, and to me becomes like a brand new listen. So I highly recommend this if you're a diehard Pink Floyd fan like I am, and just if you're looking for something that's unique, but also maybe as close to New Floyd as we might ever get by the band. Now, hopefully they will one day themselves release this material themselves in whatever fashion, maybe even some other thing that's like the Endless River where they resequence and work it together and add new recordings over it to flesh it out. Who knows? But either way, until that time, I think this here, Forever and Ever, is a worthy addition to a Pink Floyd collection. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and if you did, please leave your comments. Let me know your thoughts. Hope everyone has a great day, and I'll talk to you all real soon. Bye, everyone.